Alright, trying this one more time. Good afternoon or evening or whatever it may be for you, Professor. To answer your question from before, this is Orsino. He's being clingy and silly and trying to chew on my computer cord. Alright, so this week I thought I'd focus on the videos that we watched. Usually I tend to go for one or two of the other resources that we have available to us. This week I thought I'd do this. So describe neoevolution. What is it and what are its primary tenets? So based on the videos that we watched this week, I really liked Harvey Feinberg's video, Are We Ready for Neoevolution? He describes 3 different types of evolution around the 11-minute mark, and he describes neoevolution as the third evolution, and it means the new evolution that is not simply natural, but guided and chosen by us as individuals in the choices that we will make. So I thought that was very interesting and described accurately what I gathered to be neoevolution this week. I'm losing my voice. So some tenets of that would be that neoevolution would be designed by creatures who have already evolved to a certain degree, us. I would imagine that it must enhance in some way, make life better. And I think that its ultimate goal should be moral and yeah. Alright, provide an example of technology that is altering or may alter human evolution. Both Daniel Kraft and Paul Root Wolpe, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Paul Root Wolpe's information was pretty enlightening on that sort of a thing. Wolpe especially discussed sorts of things like, genetic splicing and that sort of thing. Now that is an example of technology that could actually be influencing our lifestyles here. And then, Daniel Kraft is an oncologist who was saying how they are now using gene mutation in order to help find ways to get rid of cancer. So those are some ways that technology is really having an impact and may alter human evolution. Because what is that going to do to those sorts of diseases and forms of things? And what effect is that going to have on the human body is going to be the real question. Another technology that's doing that, basically any technology can eventually alter human evolution. The cell phone, for example, could possibly either damage our ears or make them better, depending on what sorts of technologies come out with that. The headphones for portable music playing, that can be both dangerous and good. And these can all affect what goes into and comes out of the gene pool. But primarily, I think one of the biggest technologies that's altered human evolution is actually medication. Things like penicillin have kept people from passing on before their time, or what we would call before their time, and what evolution would call the right time, because according to evolution, without medication, that person had an inferiority in their system and was not able to fight off that infection, bacterial or viral. So things like the flu used to be completely and 100% deadly, because those were things that we are genetically coded to not fight against, or that have adapted to our genetic systems. All right. What are some potential benefits of this type of technology? Well, especially with the medication and that sort of thing. It gives us longer lives. It also decreases disease. I think it was Kraft who discussed the medication being created in order to cure influenza. So that would really help out the world, because the flu is still fairly deadly. I had it a couple of years ago. It's not fun. I would have preferred not to have had a vaccination, because everyone I know who's had a vaccination has gotten sick from the vaccination. So an actual cure like that would be very helpful. This sort of technology, especially with pills and altering medical technologies that have an effect on the brain, we could get rid of physical and mental disease, potentially. We could eventually breed that out, supposedly, according to what we've been reading this week, or listening to. What are some potential drawbacks? A lot of the drawbacks are we don't always know 100% what's going to go on with these sorts of things when we do them. What are, the rights of a cloned person? Are they a real person if there's another one of them running around somewhere? What do genetically modified foods really do to our bodies? Some people would say that they give us cancer. Some people say that the antibiotics used in treat beef and keep the cows from, dying a horrible rotten death actually have an effect in the meat and then in human beings and cause things like cancer, Alzheimer's, everything. To quote something completely silly but fairly relevant, Dr. Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park, I think, said it best. Nature will always find a way. So whether or not, it's moral or ethical, and whether or not it's effective, will there always be that factor of, will nature always find a way, or can we find a way to actually breed nature out of evolution? What are the moral and ethical implications of neo-evolution? So, another Ian Malcolm quote, I know, I just watched it, I'm sorry. He says, "But John, you were so excited that you could, that you didn't stop to ask if you should. So do we really need to put a rat into circulation with a human ear growing on its back? How is that going to help? Is it a fully functional ear? Is it just for aesthetically pleasing people so that, if you lose the outside of your ear, you can still have it sewn back on? Is that necessary? Is that ethical? Is that, where do we draw the line?" So another ethical concern would be when we eventually do start genetically altering people like we have pretty much everything else in this world, what happens when we actually do it? What rights does that person have if they're a clone? Do you raise it like a normal child? Is it just a sideshow? Is that really something that we need to be doing if it's just going to live that kind of a life? Do we really need to genetically choose every single item that goes into our child's? They were talking about in I think it was the Feinberg video, but I could be wrong, about choosing traits to enhance or diminish within a potential fetus. Yeah, it was the Feinberg. Me and my notes. Would it be a nice, neat idea? The scientific fiction writer inside of me goes, yes, that's great. But the rest of me is like, kind of feels like the movie The Island, where the clones were kept specifically so that they could be harvested, in case that person had any sort of genetic problems or anything like that, or got hurt in a car crash and needed a new spine. They'd just, kill off a clone and put the spine that was genetically the same spine into the original person. Should we continue to pursue this form of technology? Why or why not? Honestly, I'm pretty much for it. The only thing I could think of is if it got out of hand and you did start seeing, like, severe segregation based on what sort of enhancements people had. Like, are we going to end up with the Gattaca situation where, people can be genetically enhanced to do very specific things and they're not allowed to do anything else if they choose that it's different? What, effect does that have on a child? What effect does that have on the parents when the parents spent all that money to genetically engineer the child and then the child wants to go be a writer instead of a scientist? That sort of thing. But I think it's great, especially in the medical fields. Yes, nature will always find a way. There will always be something as far as disease goes. But I think we should definitely work on enhancements in that selection as far as, trying to eradicate or breed out certain things like mental disorders or weak livers or whatever you want to choose there. But yeah, I think it could be a very beneficial thing if used correctly. That's it. That's all I've got.